Hey guys, it's Brio. Today I'm talking about Dr. K's Guide to Mental Health that I purchased around, I think 4 weeks ago. And just talk about my review of it, what I liked, what I didn't like. I liked most of it. I don't think there's much I didn't like. What if you're planning to buy it, like what you could expect. So it's basically three modules. One is anxiety, depression, and meditation. And I only really did two because anxiety and meditation are like the two I'm really interested. I haven't really been depressed, I don't think. So, but I might check it out in the future. But this review is really going to be about the anxiety and meditation parts of it. So I guess I'll start with anxiety. It's probably the biggest one for me. I grew up, I think I was just born very neurotic, which basically means have a higher sensitivity to negative emotion. So yeah, basically growing up, when I was a kid, my mum would say she would only have to raise her voice and I would be like a ball on the ground crying. I really didn't like loud noises or sudden loud noises. I would cry very easily, especially when it came into school and stuff. I would lose a soccer game or something and I'd cry, or the teacher would yell and I would cry, and and I learned very quickly that that was very embarrassing because you get teased about it, and feel very shameful as a kid crying. So you sort of learn as you grow older to keep it in. Yeah, and as I grew older, I would find it harder to make friends. All my friends were basically people who approached me, which was good. I had great friends during high school. But when I came out of high school, finding new people to be friends with and talk with was much harder, and it was always just something I wanted to get better at. And I've taken a lot of steps to try and get better with my anxiety. I think I've actually been pretty successful. I think it's sort of like working out, where it's not it's annoying with working out. It's man, if I just go hard for 6 months, I can get this nice six pack and nice ripped body and abs and stuff. But with working out, it's not you keep it after 6 months. You still got to maintain it and do things like that. So probably the biggest thing I did in the past for my anxiety was learning social skills, mainly for RSD, real social dynamics, from Owen. Always calls himself Tyler as well. And so that was going out to venues, bars and clubs and stuff, and approaching people and talking to them, which was terrifying. I hated it, but it was also super fun and exciting, and that's a whole other video, and I've talked about it a bit in other videos. But yeah, what I found with that is I learned how to get into a social state. I learned how to, the way I think of it, I think I described this in my last video, where it's you've seen the movie Inside Out, where it's basically these mini people that control the main character. I feel there's a anxious, scared, doesn't want to talk to anyone person who's in control 90% of the time, but there's also this extroverted, wants to talk to everyone, not anxious, who I can sometimes get in control, and it's not I can just switch them out willy-nilly. They sort of fight over control, but I learned that dude exists inside of me, and that I can be that extroverted and person who can get over the anxiety. But anyway, I'll get into what the course taught me about anxiety, because I think it taught me a lot of things. To preface, I've watched a lot of Dr. K before this, so in his basically what I think all the topics in, maybe not all of them, have been covered in his free YouTube videos. So if you're watching the free videos, it feels like you're getting random bits of information thrown at you, and I see these information like bricks to a house. So you're getting random pieces of a puzzle. So you're getting random pieces of the puzzle and you're sort of like putting them together. Whereas I think what the module is like is it's like, okay, here's the bottom left piece, and here's the piece that clicks into there, and here's the piece that clicks into there, and here's the piece that clicks into there. And so it's very like, it shows you exactly where every piece goes. And I think that's what the advantage of the mental health guide is, as opposed to just watching YouTube videos where you're just getting random pieces and you don't know which ones you've missed and stuff like that. Yeah, but basically what's taught, so he has two parts of the anxiety module. There's the clinical and the non-clinical one. I sort of did both, but I preferred the non-clinical one because, I don't know, that's just what I preferred. What I learned from that is, like, a lot of anxiety is learned. It's sort of like your childhood is sort of the programming for your future adulthood. Like, it sort of sets like how you're going to be, and experiences in childhood which your like brain remembers, and so then it knows to like recognize like patterns in the future to like be afraid of or be anxious about, so you don't get into that previous altercation or thing that like put you in danger in the past, if that makes sense. So for example, I don't know, you touch a hot stove, or like a hot stove when you're young, and like you feel the pain, and so then like to feel anxious around stoves. Or like you see a spider and you're like not scared of it, and you're like, oh, you touch it and something and it bites you, then you learn to be like afraid of spiders in the future, like to recognize, like your mind will recognize the pattern of a spider and like, oh, activate that anxiety, get us away from here. And he calls these like, and there's like more complex versions, I'm not really explaining it right, but he explains these are sort of like samskars, so like undigested emotion, which are like in here, which is like when it recognizes the pattern, the samskar comes up and is like, anxiety, get out of here, whatever. And like a way of dealing them is like, okay, figuring out, okay, here's this, you first notice, okay, you're like going through the world, oh wow, I feel anxiety. Then you think, okay, maybe you note that in your head, I feel anxiety doing this. Then some other time you go back and you really think about that anxiety, and you try and think back in your past when this similar situation happened, and that gave you a similar like feeling of anxiety. And I did this with I think this is like a really effective exercise that I did was Jordan Peterson's past authoring program, which is you look back and in your memory, and if there's a memory over, I think it's 18 months old, and it still gives you like negative emotion when you think about it, it's like not being fully processed or something like that. It's still what Dr. K would call like a samskar, unprocessed, undigested emotion. And so I did that, and when you do it, it's like really uncomfortable. It's not enjoyable, but yeah, you're like, it's something you got to like sit down and plan to do, because it's uncomfortable. You probably cry, and it's like, unenjoyable, but you get to the point where you think about it over the weeks, of that like memory that like causes you to cry, and you've like tucked back into your memory, and then eventually you just stop feeling like emotion from it anymore. And I've done that for a few things, and it's definitely, and you don't even notice, like, but you've noticed like I feel like 1% lighter, like like a few weeks down, like I feel like a little lighter. And it's like I don't know, it's something you got to experience to like understand, but I think that's a really good way of dealing with those anxieties. But I sort of disagree with it and he probably addresses this, but I just didn't see, because it feels like some anxiety is like, if you're like next to a cliff or something and you look over and like, oh, we get anxiety because you're like scared you're gonna fall down. I feel like that's like inbuilt. It's not like, oh, when you were 2 years old you like fell off the couch and hurt yourself, and now you recognize that like places you can fall down should produce anxiety. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like some of them are inbuilt, and there's some like experience of anxiety where like I try to look back, but I just can't find anything for it, and maybe I just need to do it more. But he did talk about stuff like he prefaced this like a lot, about, you know, Hindu ideas of reincarnation and like past life trauma like coming through. I don't know, I'm not a very religious person, so I don't know about all that, but I don't know, it's good to think about. He also talked about noticing as being like the most OP thing, and I've sort of always found that frustrating because I'm like, okay, I notice. He says like you can get to a point with like noticing emotion where just the noticing in of itself will like, I'm not sure, destroy the emotion or nullify the emotion. Which, you know, I'm obviously not an expert on it, so I can't comment, but I have had experiences where that's worked, and I've had other experiences like, am I noticing the emotion? Dude, I just want some technique to like, I'm noticing it, but I want like a technique to go with it. So that's sort of frustrating, but it's also something I just gotta, I think, work on more and see how it works. He also gave, like at the end of his sort of non-clinical one, he gave like solutions, and he talked about like the two biggest solutions to anxiety being the two hardest ones as well. Like the best solutions to anxiety is like the two hardest ones, which is ego disillusionment, which is learning to disconnect from your ego, which also I'm not sure how to do. And the maxim, I'm not sure. And yeah, saying to yourself whenever anxiety comes up and you're like, oh man, I'm scared this is going to happen, I'm scared this is going to happen, is saying so be it. And that's been a really good one for me. Just learning to say, like, even with this video, I'm like anxious to talk. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a terrible video. I'll have to make this every day and delete it every day because it's going to be really bad. And or if I upload it, I'm going to get no views. And then it's like, so be it. And yeah, just do it anyway. And that's been the biggest, probably best thing I found in this whole entire module is that saying. Yeah, just, it's like, it's similar to, is it Carpe Diem, seize the day, or what's the Nietzsche quote? Love of life, but like the entirety of life, like the bad stuff as well. Yeah. The next thing I learned was probably, that was like, stood out to me a lot, was in the clinical one section of it, which was learning about attachment theories. I don't know much about them, but I like listening to them. I think I like saw that like I was avoidant. He said like a lot of men these days are usually got an avoidant attachment style, and this is embarrassing to me, but like I cried when I heard that because it was like, it felt very true. Like the way he explained it. And I don't want to talk about it now because I don't want to cry again. So I'm going to move past it. Avoid being paralyzed by the fear of the future by being in the present. Oh, yeah. And yeah, he talked about a lot of anxiety being sort of future-oriented thinking. And this gave a whole new, because you always hear, like, you just got to be in the present, bro. Like, oh, man, they'll fix all your problems if you just be in the present. And you, I sort of, you know, you're like, okay, I'm in the present. I'm thinking about the sounds. I'm like listening to the sounds around me and like really feeling the matter or whatever. But avoid being But that just made like a lot more, it made it much more solid. So it's more like, okay, I've been trying to make these like sort of called music video treatments. They're basically sort of like a screenplay for like a movie, but you use like pictures and text to like make this sort of graphic design thing to show what like your music video will look like, and then you send it to a music video production company or something like that, or the artist. And I have these like, oh man, these grand ideas of like how great it could be. Oh man, I'm gonna send this one, we're gonna make this huge video and it's gonna like change my whole life. And instead of focus, and then like, oh, you have like all these grand dreams and like, oh, maybe it won't work, and you have like all these anxieties and all these hopes and these dreams. But instead of like, you can have like that star in the future that you're like moving towards, but like really just coming back to where you are. Like, what's the next little thing I can do? Okay, what's the next frame I can make? What's the next like line of text I can write? What's like the next program I need to learn how to use? Like, who should I hire to like draw the next images? Like, just that, like the little micro movements forwards, like the things, just focusing on the next 5 minutes in front of you, and how can you make the best of that 5 minutes. Or that's been really good, and really like so that's what I had for anxiety. The next one was meditation. I think the biggest thing I got out of meditation is I don't meditate a lot, but I wanted to learn about it. He says in the West, we focus on mindfulness, and he's saying that that's like just a small part of like this huge thing, which is like meditation, and that we've also lost like, in the East, I think you call it, like meditation and yoga and all that stuff, the spiritual practice had like an ultimate goal, which was reaching enlightenment or like nirvana, and like everything was just tailored to like reaching that endpoint. It's sort of like, it's like if you have a soccer game, like your whole thing is like if you play like a sport or something, your whole thing is like learning how to get to the top of the hierarchy, become like the best, learn how to score the most goals and have the least amount come into your goal. And like there's this like huge like drive towards the top that you're like sort of striving for. And in the West with meditation, we sort of lost that. It's all about being mindful, and this will somehow make your life better. But he like goes through like a ton of different meditation practices, like all different things, and like that help with like all different areas and work different parts of the mind. And it's not all about just mindfulness. And he talked a lot about the history, which was really interesting. I think it's like well worth it if you want to get into meditation and stuff like that. For me personally, I tried a few of them. There was the one where you like tense different parts of your body. I found that really uncomfortable, I'll be honest. It's apparently good for sleep, which is something I struggle with, so maybe I should try it out more. There's a good one, is like learning to breathe and like see where the breath goes and pay attention to where the breath goes in your body. That was actually like really interesting. But I'll be honest, I haven't done it consistently. I mean, there's always the excuse, there's no time. There's time, but the way I work, I'm just trying to figure out an area to slot it in. Usually I want to do it like first thing in the morning, but at the moment, just the way, because as soon as I finish like studying in the morning, because that's like sort of the secondary thing I do is study, I'm like straight to work. So adding like a 10-minute practice before that will take 10 minutes of my study. So I got to figure that out. But I really want to try out meditation. But I would highly, highly recommend, if you don't want to get the other ones, but you want to learn about meditation, just get the $20 meditation module. So yeah, I think finishing up, some other things I like got out of it was just like Dr. K's approach in general. I've just noticed this even with his YouTube videos. It's not like a lot of other self-help people I listen to where it's just like, it's it's like, oh, this book, like Relentless, where it's like, this is like the Sigma male Bible right here, where it's like, oh, you gotta like just work 18 hours a day, and you just gotta just power through and work more than anyone else, and you gotta freaking eat dirt for breakfast and wake up at 3 a.m. and destroy the world. You know, it's more like, okay, really figure out like where you are. So if you're like, so it's not like, okay, just say I'm like 100 kilos overweight and I eat fast food every meal of the day. It's not like tomorrow, wake up, green smoothies, friggin' only like fruits and vegetables, like only super healthy organic stuff. It's not like you try and switch in one day. It's like, okay, you eat fast food for every meal. Next day, try and still eat fast food every day, because that's basically what your habit and like what you are is like a person who eats. That sounds wrong, but like, yeah, the way your like motivations work is you can only handle eating fast food every day, but maybe add one apple into your like diet and see if you can handle that. And if you can't handle that, try half an apple. If you can't handle that, try a quarter of an apple. And then try eating like a quarter of that, and then you see, okay, I can do that. So try and eat a quarter of an apple every day for the whole week, and then next week test out trying half an apple, and like slowly just like trying to like take back just like little chunks of things, of like your time, your energy, your willpower, just like taking like what little you can, and just like not beating yourself over the head because you're not where you want to be, and you're not doing everything perfect. It's like just taking the tiny victories that you can. And I think that's, it's really been a thing in between, like negotiating between your emotional mind and your sort of logical mind, where like, just say for the person who's 100 kilos overweight, like your emotional mind wants to eat fast food every meal, but your logical mind wants to eat, healthy, or whatever that means. It's sort of like, okay, we can handle like half an apple extra a day, but in like a week or two we can handle a full apple. And maybe if you continue that and then learn to scale back and negotiate between emotional and the logical mind, so that like you keep it up consistent in 6 months, like eating 2 meals a day out of the 5 you eat, which are like, a healthy sandwich or something like that. So that was my Dr. K review. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.